Hi everyone and welcome back. It's Mindy and I have another guest post to share with you today for Newton's Nook Designs, and I couldn't resist playing with these Bitty Bunnies stamp set again. I'm totally in the mood for spring right now and this card totally screams spring. So I'm going to start my card off by creating the background because I wanted to give this time to dry. So what I did is I took a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I'm going to lightly apply the Tumbled Glass Distress ink. This does take a little bit more work to ink blend a piece of cardstock with this one because it is just a regular distress ink, but I'm just doing a light coating over the entire back of that. And I did use 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so if I want to trim it down, I have room to trim that down. And next I'm going to come in with the Cloudy Sky stencil, and this is a bigger stencil than my cardstock, which is perfectly fine. So I'm going to flip it over and tape that down on the back. That way my cardstock is held in place and I can move this around on my craft mat wherever I need to, but at least the paper is held in place. So I just used some thermal web sticky tape. It's just a nice tacky tape that's not going to ruin my paper. And then I'm going to take the Mermaid Lagoon Distress Oxide and a sponge dauber, and I'm going to lightly stencil in those clouds. I'm just doing this really light, which is hard because Mermaid Lagoon's a really nice bright blue, but I'm just putting a light layer over those clouds, being careful not to catch the edges of the cloud. So just go ahead and blend that in, and I'll just do it over the entire thing just in case I decide I wanted to use the whole piece. That option is always there for me. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the stencil. I cleaned that off quick so that I didn't have any of that ink on the stencil. And now what I want to do is I'm lining up where the clouds are that I just stenciled in, and I'm going to shift it over slightly. So it's going to be offset. And I'm going to use that same sticky tape and just tack that down. And now I'm going to come in with the Tonic Glimmer Paste. This is Moonstone. I've used this before in my last video with Newton's Nook. I love this stuff. I just can't stop using it, so I'm sorry if you're seeing it again. So this is just going to give me a really pretty shimmer to these clouds. It's gorgeous in person. The pictures really just don't capture it. So I'm just taking some scoops out, laying that down over my stencil. This is how slow I go. I do speed it up, but I wanted to show you this is how slow I do it, just so I'm not catching the edge and making my stencil move even though it is tacked down. So I'm just lightly spreading that over the clouds, making sure everything looks nice and smooth, evening out those edges, and then scraping off the excess. And then you're going to want to clean the stencil off right away so that glimmer paste does not stick to your stencil. And here I'll remove that, and look at those pretty clouds. I just love this glimmer paste. So next, while I have my craft mat out and that cloud piece is set off to dry, I wanted to make a hillside, but I wanted it to not just be plain cardstock. I wanted to have that distress ink look to it. So I'm starting off with Twisted Citron Distress Oxide. This is also on Bristol Smooth cardstock because it just blends really nice on this cardstock. And then I'm going to come in with Cracked Pistachio, and I'm going to drop a layer on there, and then top it off with the Lucky Clover. And then I'll go back through with my blending tools and just even out those lines so there's no harsh lines there. They just blend together really well. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that out with the Land Borders die set from Newton's Nook. So now what I'm doing is I'm just going to use my Misty tool and I'm going to stamp out my images from the Bitty Bunnies set. So this is just a really cute stamp set. It could be for Easter or just some fun spring cards, and it's got some cute little extra elements on there that I'm also going to use. So this time I'm using 2 bunnies for my card. So I'm going to lay those out. This is Nina's Solar White cardstock that I personally like to color on. This is 80 pound. So I'm just going to put those on the door of my Misty and stamp these in a Copic friendly ink because I will be coloring them with Copic markers. And I do like to stamp my images twice just to make sure they are nice, crisp outlines to work with. And then I'm just going to come in with an acrylic block and just add in the butterflies because I'm going to color those in too. And I did 3 of them. There's 2 of them with the open wings and 1 is a side shot. So now I'm going to come in with the Copic markers. I'll have my colors listed above here on the screen and also below the video. And I start out with my darkest color going over where the shadows would be. So the ear tucked behind there, I added some shadows. And at the back of the bunny, I'm adding a shadow and a little bit under the chin and the foot. And then I'm going to blend this out from darkest to lightest. And I do go over these twice with my Copic markers just because I like to make sure that they're blended smoothly and that you can really see the shadow areas in there. And I'll do that for both bunnies, coloring the darkest to lightest. And with the butterflies, when I get to coloring the butterflies, I don't really add a lot of shadow to them. They are such a simple image to color up. I just added some random colors in there, some nice bright spring colors. So I'm going to go ahead and get these colored up. Now I'm going to start putting my card together. I have an A2 size card base here, and I already pre-cut this scalloped piece from some craft cardstock, and this is using the Frames and Flags die set. And it has the scallop around the edge, and then there's got some stitching in the inside. So I'll just go ahead and get that attached. What I want to do is I want to try and leave that stitching. I have my paper cut so it's just inside of that stitching line. I really like the look of stitching. So it's going to have the cloudy sky, which I did trim down my piece once it was dry. And I'll get that attached to the top half of the card. And then I pre-cut that green distressed piece with the Land Borders die set and trimmed that down to fit inside of this stitched panel. So I'll have the cloudy skies and I'll have my hillside there. And I am going to use this double-sided tape. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to make sure this holds really well on top of that Glimmer Paste. So I do really like this tape. This is a really nice strong tape. I trust it. It's not going to fall off. So I'm going to go ahead and line that up on top of my clouds. And then I can just add regular adhesive, whatever you may have on hand, to the bunnies, and I'm going to get those attached. And for the sentiment, I did cut out a flag banner from the Frames and Flags die set and stamped my sentiment on there. I just trimmed off one edge of the flag so it was flush with the side. And then I'm also going to just go ahead and add those butterflies using just some small strips of the double-sided tape to make sure they stick to my cloud background. So I hope you enjoyed today's card and it puts you in the mood for spring. I'll have all the links of supplies that I used posted down below and also on my blog as well. Please be sure to visit Newton's Nook Designs for their adorable images and dies. And a big thank you to them for allowing me to guest design this month. It has been so much fun playing with their images. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.